This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Friday, October 21st, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From Reuters, Liz Truss quits after 6 chaotic weeks as UK Prime Minister. British Prime Minister Liz Truss announced her resignation yesterday after 44 fairly chaotic days in office. Truss said she would remain in office until her replacement is selected, and the Tory party has said they should be able to get another PM queued up by mid-next week. Truss attempted to jumpstart the UK's economy at the same moment the country's central bank was attempting to slow it, to tamp down on inflation. And this seemingly mistimed attempt at what some have called Thatcher-esque policies did some damage to the country's currency, stock market, and economic reputation in a very short period of time. From Axios, Putin declares martial law in annexed regions of Ukraine. Russian President Putin has declared martial law in 4 Ukrainian regions that he recently annexed, despite those annexations not being acknowledged as legitimate by most of the world, and despite not having full military control of these territories. This will provide Russian leaders in these regions with additional wartime powers, and includes an economic mobilization in some Russian regions bordering Ukraine. Other governments have generally responded to this announcement by saying it shows Putin's desperation and weakness, though Russian forces seem to have won some strategic victories recently, following the deployment of Iranian suicide drones and missiles against Ukrainian energy infrastructure. And from the New York Times, Hurricane Ian is blamed for deadly bacterial infections in Florida. About 28 cases of Vibrio vulnificus infections, which can lead to necrotizing fasciitis, better known as flesh-eating bacteria, have been tallied in Florida in recent weeks, and at least 7 people have died from it thus far. It's rare to die from this type of infection, but the bacteria that causes it spreads readily in floodwaters, like the kind that washed across portions of Florida when Hurricane Ian rolled through in late September. Local health officials have said that the hurricane brought an abnormal number of such infections to the area, and similar waves of infection of all sorts of otherwise rare diseases have been reported in other heavily flooded areas around the world. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com, and you can support this and other related projects like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts at understandery.com.